What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday. That means it is time for the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You're all probably listening to this on Thursday, so this is already outdated. But I'm going to roll with it anyway because Sal likes me to come in firing, and that's what happens when I do that. I mess up. So Sal is here. What's going on, Sal Lito?
What's up? I think you left an S out in your. It is it Funhouse. I don't know. There was an S missing somewhere in there. I was dying.
Fantasy Football Funhouse. What I do wrong? Did I call it Fantasy again?
No. When you listen back tomorrow, you'll see exactly what I mean. But it's good to hear.
Exactly why I don't listen to it.
To be here with both of you guys. I've been recording in the past few weeks with either Steve or either Kevin, but not both. So it's good to get the plan back together.
Hey, Steve.
That's right. I am here. And Sal mentioned it. It's been a while since me and Kevin have both appeared on the same podcast. And I'll tell you what, it really makes me appreciate the podcast that I do with only Sal.
Yeah, I got to be honest. A couple of people have asked me whether or not we had some kind of feud or rift going on because, we weren't on the same shows anymore. And I told them all the truth, which is, yes, I don't like Steve. So we've been trying to be separated as much as possible, but it's hard for me because I really don't like Sal either. So it's really going terribly for me.
Kevin, you got to go.
Is that it? Is that the end game? I'm just off the show.
You are done.
Oh man. All right. Well, listen, before we get into the fantasy football, which we have plenty of to talk about today, I got to ask you, Sal, how do you cook your ramen noodles?
Well, this is interesting because, as you guys know, I'm single and broke. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to make the most money I've ever made in my life this year. I hope that nobody from the IRS is listening. Had a very good year, but I seem to pay for a lot of other people's stuff. And that leaves very little money for me at the end of the day. So I was rushing around today, prepping for the show, running the kids around. I got back to my apartment. I realized I got nothing to eat. And in the back of the closet was a cabinet, was a box of ramen my mother bought me back in like March. And I whipped that sucker up. Evidently, I did not know that there's different ways to make ramen. I followed the instructions. I put 2 cups of water. I boiled it. After it was done, I stirred in the mix. But Steve evidently stirs in the mix a little early.
Yeah. I like my noodles to absorb the seasoning. I would like my noodles to absorb the flavor. All right.
I go completely the other way. I drain the noodles all together and then put the seasoning on because that's the way to do it. That's how you get the most flavor.
If I could appeal to the ladies and gentlemen that listen to the show, donate money to the show. We're obviously all broke.
Yeah, we realize that this is terrible content and we're not good at this show, but you could still give us some money so Sal could eat real food.
I would like to put up an important poll tomorrow on the old Funhouse account of whether or not ramen is considered a soup.
Oh.
Now, I understand it does have broth in it, but Kevin drains all his broth out. Do you consider ramen a soup, as Sal tried to pass it off as when we got on the call today?
I did.
It's not a soup.
Yeah.
I mean, well, actually, that's not true.
It's a soup. That's wrong.
The way Sal cooks it, it's a soup. The way you eat it is a soup. The way I eat it, it's a side dish. It's noodles.
I guess it is a soup, but I don't consider it a soup. It's not fancy enough.
I've heard people refer to it as a salad. That's weird.
That's stupid. Those people are dumb.
Yeah.
Who the hell are these morons?
I know. What can I say? I know a lot of stupid people. All right. So I haven't been on this show for, almost a full week here. And I don't really know how we do this. What are we doing tonight, Sal? You got some handwritten notes again, I believe, from all the games that took place in week 9.
I have handwritten notes. I have digital notes. And I have also the first game I want to talk about is I heard there was a game in Falafel this week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. I forgot all about that. I was gonna save it for like mid-show, just to really build up to it. You want? You want to just get it out there? So yeah, Steve, what happened, buddy? You had a rough day. Rough day on Sunday. Actually, Monday night was rough for you because you went in with a lead.
Yeah.
And not only did you have a lead, but I had Amari Cooper, who's been downright terrible, and the Tennessee defense going against Amari Cooper, which really, cancels each other out in some cases. But what happened?
I don't know.
I needed 21 points to win. I was down by 21 points, and yet somehow victorious.
Yeah, somehow Amari Cooper, fresh off of 2 bye weeks in a row, had some fresh legs out there, and it was obvious. he gets the early touchdown. So not only does Amari Cooper do better than just about he had all entire year, except for maybe one other game.
One game.
But the Titans defense also does good enough to get 12 points by themselves. So yeah, Amari Cooper got the touchdown. You had Alvin Kamara, you had DeAndre Hopkins. I had Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Howard. I didn't have Gronk playing for me this week. You also had Nick Chubb. I was happy to even see that I had that 20-point lead, to be honest, but part of me did think that Amari Cooper was going to suck yet again, and I was going to be able to hold on and eke this win out because I need it much more than you do. And didn't happen as the luck continues to go for me in falafel.
Yeah, it's I got to be honest. I brought this up not only so that I could gloat, which I did want to do, but more importantly, I think we're getting to that point in the season where Angry Steve comes out, right? I mean, you're what, 2-7 now?
Yeah.
Respectfully, again at the bottom of the league for what, the third straight year now?
Yeah, I mean, last year wasn't that
facing
bad.
relegation.
It's a curse of the original winner of falafel, is what it is. You will be cursed forever.
It seems like it because in a 16-team league, you'd assume that Kirk Cousins, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Howard, Brandon Cooks, Rob Gronkowski, Sterling Shepard, not a bad team, not bad at all. Can't all put it together in the same week ever, and I've had a lot of points scored against me. So yes, I'm cursed.
I've won in weeks where I've had Alfred Blue and Doug Martin in the lineup.
Yeah. So it's been a rough season, but I'm feeling pretty good. I'm still confident. I don't have the worry like I had a few years ago. That was scary. I like my team much more.
I will say your team is far more prepared this year than it was the year that you legitimately almost got relegated. Your point total is very high for the 14th placed team. So
yeah, 2-7 and not a bad point scored, but
yeah,
them's the breaks.
My toughest matchup is actually the league, the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am that I'm running the team for us guys. And
aren't we in that league? Aren't we part of that team?
We're in it together, and we had a rough start because of the injury to Devonta Freeman and some other stuff that went on. We were 1-3, and I got that team back to 4-4, which was nice. And going into this week, we had a nice little matchup. We blew away our projections to score 150 points, only to be outscored by the only other person in the league that would have outscored us. We would have beat every single other team by 20-plus points this week, but we played the one guy that could beat us to drop us to 4-5. So hopefully we can get that ship righted a little bit. Before we get into the games, let's talk about the gridironexperts.com, Kevin.
Yeah, I love gridironexperts.com, so I'm always happy to talk about them. Yeah, they got great stuff over at the website gridironexperts.com. In case you didn't hear us say it the first couple of times, you can check out rankings. They have NFL picks. They have you can even check out NFL depth charts. Sal, did you know that? I know a lot of people don't do depth chart research this late in the season, but you probably should, because if you're in a deeper league or you're in a dynasty, you want to check those things out and see who's doing what.
You must go to great depths to win your league.
Oh boy!
I see what you did there. That was good. That was good.
I don't know. I don't know about good, but they also have the store, which, by the way, you can go to separately if you'd like to. You can go to fantasyfootballtshirts.com. Very, very difficult name to remember there, Sal. So make sure you write that down. Fantasyfootballtshirts.com.
You almost screwed it up.
I know. But awesome stuff out there. So go definitely check out the podcast that they have on gridironexperts.com and go buy yourself some nice t-shirts. We've talked about Sal's lack of good t-shirts, and yet he still refuses to buy them. So help him out.
Yeah, nice Jack Daniels one on tonight. Check this one out.
Nice. Guy's eating soup for dinner. You're going to give him crap about his shirts? Come on.
He's eating ramen noodles, and he's wearing a shirt that was clearly a giveaway at a bar.
Actually, I worked at the event.
Even better.
That's a true story.
I've got it in 3 sizes.
I stole all the extras they had left.
You should see my medium. Let's get into some news before we talk about the game. So the biggest news, I guess, of the day, the last 2 days, is Dez Bryant signed with the New Orleans Saints. Dez Bryant was offered more money by both the Ravens and the Browns, waited it out, landed in a good spot. I say a good move for him. I had put a tweet out after this that said Dez Bryant is the tight end zone threat that the Saints have been missing all season, and that got a little traction. And I also saw that both, I believe, Pat Thorman and Evan Silva made reference to the way that he'll play similar to a tight end. So, Kevin, what's your opinion on it? Is this a good signing for both the Saints and for Dez? And how do you see him getting used?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good signing for the Saints. It's really, it's going to be very little risk, I assume. It's just some money that they're throwing at him. God only knows what they're going to pay him. I'm sure it's not a ton. It's
1 year,
a good
$8
move.
million.
$8 million, is that what it was? All right, so
Yeah.
prorated, you're probably looking at a little under 4. So
Correct.
yeah, what do they care at that point? They're thin at wide receiver with Ted Ginn going down, so obviously they need a little help there. They haven't had a red zone threat, as you mentioned. I mean, Ben Watson hasn't been used the same way that we've seen him used in the past in the red zone. They really don't have anyone to step up. Michael Thomas is phenomenal, but that's not really his. He's not really that jump ball, battle type. He's more of a in traffic kind of guy. So
I on a phone in traffic.
We'll get to that too. Look, I loved it, by the way. I loved the bringing back of the Joe Horn celebration, but apparently a lot of people weren't too happy with that.
I'm going to agree with you, and I know you want to finish your point, but I'm going to agree with you. Like, I sat here, I watched it with my son, and I thought it was great. I knew right away a reference to Joe Horn. I want to smack Joe Buck across his pretentious
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it, Joe Buck, you're a pain in the ass. But then the big slob over here in New York, Francesa, had something to say, Kevin. You just stop it. It shouldn't even have been a 15-yard penalty. This is why people watch the game, guys. It's 2018. Let these guys – he didn't hurt nobody.
I'll tell you what, I appreciated the Joe Horn revival a lot more than I appreciate these stupid dances, like choreographed moves that full teams are doing now, because that stuff drives me nuts. I'm all for celebrations. I'm all for having a couple of guys do something, but the fact that they're taking time to practice dances drives me absolutely nuts. So, but again, we'll step off our soapbox here. For Dez Bryant, again, I think it's a great move. I think what it does is it hurts value of Michael Thomas, hurts value of Ben Watson if you're using him, hurts value of Kamara and Ingram in the goal line because they may throw the ball more. So all it can do is hurt these other fantasy assets. And I don't know that you're going to trust starting Dez Bryant. So for me, from a fantasy perspective, I think it sucks. Great move for the Saints, but overall it sucks.
I added them nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see the point. I see a lot of people, grabbing him, off of rosters in dynasties where people held on to him and they're not contenders this year. They're selling him off for fairly cheap. Even in that, like, if I'm a contender in a dynasty, I don't know why I would buy him. He's maybe going to get you through some bye weeks, and that's it. But
interesting note, November 29th, Thursday primetime game, Saints-Cowboys. Should be a fun one to watch. Steve, I want to get your opinion on A.J. Green. So A.J. Green, he's on a bye week. I'm nice and comfortable over there. I got him on my bench, just relaxing. And all of a sudden, in the midst of getting notifications for my Sunday players, I start finding out that he may miss significant time, possibly needing surgery on his toe. Turns out he doesn't need the surgery. He's going to miss up to 2 weeks, as of right now, could be more. So touch on two things. One, A.J. Green, and the fact that John Ross has been back at practice the last 2 days, and today practiced in full.
Yeah, so obviously, A.J. Green, like you said, avoiding the surgery, only going to be out for a couple weeks, hopefully at most. And so you automatically think next man up, that would be Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is going to see a nice increase in volume because I believe A.J. Green had somewhere between a 26 and 28% target share from Andy Dalton. So those targets have got to go somewhere else. They're not all going to go to Boyd, but he should see a significant bump. But he also is going to be seeing the harder coverage now. I think it's important for John Ross because he is somebody that we all kind of liked heading into the season. And then he was kind of derailed both by the emergence of Boyd and him being healthy and producing, but also by injuries. He went down with a groin injury again. And so I think it's important to have John Ross back up there. I think that he's worth a speculative ad for sure, because we saw that Andy Dalton was able to sustain 2 wide receivers week in and week out with A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. These are 2 different guys, obviously, but I like what it does for Tyler Boyd. A lot of people seem to be worried that with the coverage, with him taking over and him going to get all the full coverage. We saw the same thing a few years ago with A.J. Green being hurt. Mohamed Sanu came in, and he absolutely lit the league on fire. So if Tyler Boyd can do anything like Mohamed Sanu did, then he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and I'm going to need John Ross to save me in falafel, where I do have A.J. Green, and I also drafted Ross, and I held on to him I did try to give him to Steve for a kicker a few weeks ago, and he rejected me. But thank you, Steve. I made other bad trades in that league that I've heard. Sam Darnold is in a boot today. He's been announced that he will definitely be out in week 10. Guys, my opinion on this is, Sam, you're hurt. You're hurt the rest of the year. We're going to play McCown. Next year, you're going to play again. That's honestly what I think is going on here. I think this is going to be made to be more than it actually is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Sal. I was listening to local radio here in the Boston area, and they had Phil Simms on as like part of a weekly interview that they do with him, and he was even mentioning that. Actually, I'm sorry, it might have been Boomer Esiason and not Phil Simms. I apologize.
Boomer does the one up there. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, yes. So, but anyway, he was mentioning that they thought it was his opinion that they should sit Sam Darnold for the rest of the year anyway. Bring in McCown, let the kid learn more. For the rest of the season, because he's just getting crushed and he's getting beat up, and the offensive line has been terrible. And why risk, any further injury or just an overall abuse to the poor kid? Sit him down and let the let McCown get beat up for a while.
You made it so it's funny because Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason do a lot of commercials here in New York together. They're on Inside the NFL, I believe, together now. They're on NFL on set, and it's because they're both big blonde-haired quarterbacks from New York. They're always mistaken for each other. So that's a common mistake. Last year in the 14 weeks that Josh McCown played, he was QB7. Robbie Anderson was wide receiver 14. Jermaine Kearse was wide receiver 22. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins was tight end 11. We've seen Chris Herndon have some really viable weeks over the last 4. As a guy I've been touting a little while. I've had him as a sleeper in 2 of the last 3 weeks. He's got touchdowns in the 3 previous games before this weekend, and this weekend he went 4 for 62 and finished as a top 12 again. So he's been a startable tight end 4 weeks in a row. So all guys to keep an eye on. Sammy Watkins needs to have an MRI on his foot. We know all too well that he has missed significant time with foot injuries in the past. This could be a big damaging blow to people who have gotten more than I think some would have expected from him. So tell me, Steve, who is next man up while Sammy Watkins is out? Is it Chris Conley? Is it just mean it goes to spread out to more of the targets like Kareem Hunt, maybe even Spencer Ware getting more involved, guys like that? What do you think?
Yeah, I would lean more towards his small target share being spread around the other guys that they've already got there with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Kareem Hunt, who's been getting more and more play in the passing game as the weeks have gone on. So, yeah, I don't think this is a huge knock for the Kansas City offense. I don't think they're going to really miss a step at all. I think they're going to carry on just as much as they would and continue being a dominant offense. I don't think they weren't relying too heavily on Sammy Watkins. I think that whoever comes in, be it Chris Conley or another guy, is going to be able to do anything that Sammy Watkins was able to do. They still have all their main studs there.
Watkins wasn't having that bad of a season. You dirty rat.
Watkins was having a decent season, but I think what it does is it allows them to focus, even while he was having a good season. I think it allows defenses to target a little bit more on, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and that makes me a little nervous for their production to dip a little bit. We've also seen, while I understand what you're saying, Steve, they've been absolutely phenomenal this year. My thoughts on Andy Reid, and we've seen what happened last year with the swoon in the middle of the season of their offense just disappearing. I'm not expecting that to happen this year, but there is a potential for it to dip a little bit. I do like that you brought up the name Spencer Ware, though, Sal. I do remember someone on this show potentially saying he could get some catches somewhere down the stretch.
He got used. He got used recently, and he's been getting a little bit of play there. And, I mean, it hasn't been averse for Kareem Hunt at all. Kareem Hunt has been an absolute stud for 5 weeks now. I mean, he is atop the NFL charts. I mean, the only guys that really outplay him on a weekly basis right now are Gurley. And Kamara came back to us this week after being gone for a couple weeks.
It's because he played, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Kareem Hunt should be locked in everybody's lineups every week. Amir Abdullah was signed by the Vikings today, and they let go of preseason lover boy Rock Thomas, which is a surprise for me.
Most people say darling, so not lover boy.
He's my lover boy. That's what I do. Amir, I have him in Pigs 3. I love you. We'll get into why that means absolutely nothing when we get to the Dalvin Cook portion of the show. Leonard Fournette practiced in full today. Leonard Fournette has 20 carries on the season, just 20 carries. We're going into week 10. Quickly, before we move on from news, guys, do they go right back to Leonard Fournette? Maybe not this week, right? Maybe they bring him back slowly week 1. But if he shows to be healthy, do Carlos Hyde and Leonard Fournette, TJ Yeldon have any value going forward in 2018?
I think TJ Yeldon still has value. I do, because I think he's still going to be using the passing game. I think that they're gonna rotate him in. The problem is you're going to see, I think, Hyde and Yeldon maybe battle for those looks, but I'm going to tell you, they have to go right back to Fournette, right? You might as well get what you can out of him before he gets hurt again, because we know that's coming. They're 3-5. They're third in the division at this point. They got to get some wins. So you got to go back to the guy that it helped you get, to where you needed to be last year. I think they gotta give him 20 to 25 carries.
Steve, what about your lover boy, Carlos Hyde?
Yeah, I think that him coming in, they can utilize him in a way that might also help sustain Leonard Fournette. And so he's not used that 25 times, maybe closer to in the 15 to 17 range for Leonard Fournette. Give Carlos Hyde a few carries. And then I also agree TJ Yeldon still use him in the passing game a little bit more, but I'm not sure that they're actually going to do that. I don't have any faith in Jacksonville, and they seem to run Fournette into the ground. So I don't see why you'd really expect anything different. Carlos Hyde has not been the same runner for the last few weeks. And so his value being behind Fournette, being basically in a three-headed timeshare there, wouldn't be starting Carlos Hyde anytime soon.
Plus, just not, throwing it out there, they're playing the Indianapolis defense.
That's true. You sit everybody against that defense.
I mean, you just sit everyone against the Indianapolis Colts.
I've been trying to find a good quote each week to put in here, and this is my favorite quote that I saw this week. Did you guys catch the video of Bill O'Brien running off the sidelines?
That's great.
The quote was, "Good job, Vance, you dumb fuck." I believe that he fired Vance Joseph in Houston at one point, did he not? These guys are former co-workers.
Yeah, I believe so.
I did not know that.
Steve, I mean, what's going on? I mean, you've given me you've broken my balls about Gruden, but you want Joseph out.
Absolutely. I don't think he's got any kind of control on the team in terms of getting them to do what he would like them to do. And I'm also not sure what he would like them to do is the right fit for today's NFL. I would like to see a little more creativity on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense, we've obviously seen it going downhill ever since their Super Bowl years. And so, I think that they need a new face in there. I would like them to get a little more offensive centered. Vance Joseph, when he came in, more of a defensive minded coach. And I don't think that's where the NFL is going. I would like to see them get out in front of it as opposed to trailing behind it and suffering at the likes of other teams dominating offenses. So yes, I would like there to be a change at the helm, and I think it's going to happen. If Vance Joseph lasts the season, he won't be there next year.
What do you feel about Demaryius Thomas coming out and saying the problem is John Elway?
I don't think you can necessarily argue with that. John Elway's been in charge of bringing players in for the last few years. He's built these rosters the way that they are currently constructed. And so, some of the onus does have to go on the players as well. It's not all the coach's fault. It's not all the system's fault. They're the ones on the field. So I think that, there's plenty of blame to go around. And so
the man can't judge quarterbacks.
Which is so weird.
He can't judge quarterbacks. How does that happen? The guy, he should know the position better than anyone, and yet he can't figure it out. It's unbelievable.
Which is why he should have just paid up for Kirk Cousins. He should have just paid up. You can say that, but you don't know the specifics there. You don't know if Cousins was going to go there. You don't know what it actually would have taken. And by the way, that's a lot of money that really hamstrings you in other areas. You can't have all the people that you have on the team when you have a $30 million, quarterback. The Vikings are going to find that out pretty soon, by the way. They're good this year, and they still have all those guys under contracts. But when they start to look at paying people next year, they're going to struggle. They're going to have cap issues. When do they got to pay Thielen again? Best wide receiver in the NFL.
Oh, I don't know that they're paying him much right now, but it's a good deal they got. All right, guys, we've talked a lot preseason and all season long about the quantedge.com, and the quantedge.com is doing wonderful things for people who've popped down their money. If you go there right now, you could get remember we were selling that season-long package for $99.99. You could get it for $59.99 right now, and if you use code FFFunhouse, you will get $10 additional off and pay just $49.99 for the rest of the season. Let me tell you about the betting tool. The betting tool, since it was released 3 weeks ago, is 28-13. I defy you to find a prognosticator who was going 28-13. Yes.
Do you know who the betting tool had in last week's thrilling Thursday night matchup of the San Francisco 49ers and the Oakland Raiders?
The 49ers.
Smart. What about you, Kevin?
Who did I have?
Yeah.
In that one? I did not play that one well. I did not play. Hey, I did play the under, which got me some money, but the betting on the Raiders and the the parlay between the two obviously did not pan out. So, however, I will say this: while that was not good, if you stick to Sundays, I am 14 of my last 15 bets on Sundays. So
that's awesome and not as fun.
Wow, Kevin is betting, and he is a tool, so it's almost like the same thing. So go to the quantedge.com. You can test the betting tool out.
Rude and inappropriate.
For $6, you can test the betting tool out for 5 days. So it's another great deal that they're having there. The quantedge.com. Check it out. You know what we've told them all before. They've got articles, they've got podcasts, they've got all kinds of matchup tools and crazy stuff going on over there. Check them out. Good stuff. Guys, you want to get into actual games? Or you want to get into actual players that actually played football this past week?
I mean, we're half an hour in. It'd be nice to talk football.
Yeah, probably a good idea at some point.
Let's breeze through the quarterbacks real quick. I got one guy I'm going to bring up this week. Just one guy on my list because he's finally had a decent game. And it's a guy that Kevin was touting, guy that Kevin drafted in Falafel and killed him for early part of the season. It's Marcus Mariota. And that includes overthrowing a wide-open Corey Davis in the end zone in this game, but he did finish 7th overall this week, 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 32 more running, and a rushing touchdown. And that is a thing that has been missing for Mariota. He gets you that extra rushing yardage and the rushing touchdown, and he put it together in this game. And the Cowboys, who have played good defense, just looked really awful in that game. They really did not play a good game. Kevin, do you think that you want to wait a little while and see some more of this out of Mariota? This you were waiting for, and you can pop him right in.
Well, I'm definitely playing him this week, going up against New England, which no one's afraid of that defense. Although they did limit Aaron Rodgers pretty well, I will say that is probably the best defensive game they've played all season this past week. But the defense itself gives up a lot of points. They have historically had trouble stopping rushing quarterbacks, so I can expect him to get some yardage on the ground. But I think what it boils down to is he can feel all his fingers. So I think he can throw the ball a little bit better than he was earlier in the season. That's usually a good thing. He didn't have that glove on his hand, which was, I don't know if it was limiting his grip or anything like that, but it certainly couldn't have helped. So I think that, I mean, it depends on what options you have, right? Because if you've gotten this far in the season and you're still a contender, you probably have found another quarterback somewhere along the line, whether it be Ryan Fitzpatrick or something else, in which case maybe you're kind of rotating through the two now, or you're going to ride the Fitzpatrick hot streak. But for me, like in Falafel, which obviously is a 16-team league, he's right back in my lineup because I'm certainly not starting Derek Carr.
Don't start David Carr either.
No, David Carr is probably not good either.
Stupid.
Although
Derek
he might play better than Derek Carr at this point.
Derek Carr in our Falafel matchup started off that Thursday night with him scoring like 5.6 points, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna whoop Kevin's ass this week."
Outscored your quarterback.
Oh my god! And then Kirk Cousins goes and does what he does. Oh my god, it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sal, did you notice that, by the way? Our so Steve and I's matchup for this past week, the quarterback play, Derek Carr got me 7.3 points. Kirk Cousins a whopping 6.9.
Did
The
he have
quarterbacks.
Did Cousins have turnovers in that game? I didn't really pay close attention.
One interception. He only threw for 164 yards and one touchdown. They went on the ground a lot. I mean, I know you're going to get to him a little bit, and when we start running back, so.
Well, just a couple of notes on quarterbacks. I saw this on Twitter. 4 quarterbacks are currently inside the 25 best single season all time in passing touchdown rate. Ryan Fitzpatrick is at the number 4 spot all time with 9.3%. Patrick Mahomes is at number 5, 9.2%. Russell Wilson is at 16 at 8.1, and Phillip Rivers right at 25 with 7.7. We have checked in and out of this throughout the year about the insane pace. We're going into week 10, and the pace has absolutely not slowed down at all. That's just
it won't. You can't play defense anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
It's honestly, it's great for fantasy, and I love that aspect of it. But I'm actually disappointed in some of these games. I just like the scoring's fun and everything, but man, I like defense every once in a while.
Yeah, well, then you shouldn't watch the Patriots. Here's another quick note, and I have Alex Smith in as my landmine quarterback this week, and people get back up, but he's playing the Tampa Bay Bucks. I don't care.
Check Sal out on fanball.com.
Go look at what he did against the Saints and the Falcons this year. He has 1 total touchdown pass in those games in a season where 10 quarterbacks are averaging 20-plus points. He has not hit 20 points once this year. So I'm not even trusting him against Tampa. But here's an interesting note. He threw a career high 26 touchdowns last year in Kansas City in 15 games, and Patrick Mahomes has 29 already this year. That's kind of crazy. Let's scoot on over to running backs.
Is Patrick Mahomes going to be the touchdown record holder at the end of this year?
I have a feeling that he'll slow down as we get closer to the end of the season. I think they'll balance out a little bit more with Kareem Hunt. I'd say he hits the mid-40s, maybe mid to upper 40s, but I don't think he breaks 50.
It's got to be a rookie record, right? I mean, I don't know what the rookie record is.
I think he already has it because I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning held it at like 28.
Yeah, so I mean, but I think you're right, Sal. I don't think he's getting over 50.
Patrick Mahomes is not a rookie.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
Kevin, you messed me up, Kevin. Nice going, Kevin.
It was a trap. It was a trap, Sal. I did that on purpose to see if you were paying attention.
I stepped right in it.
Do the people at Fanball know that you were almost had right there?
Let's quickly move on to running backs. Guys, let's go. Let's talk about the Minnesota backfield real quick. Dalvin Cook was coming back. He was going to be on a pitch count. I had to play him in Pigs because I'm Pigs 3. There's a dearth of talent on my roster, and I had to put him in there, and I got lucky because he got 28 carries, snaps rather in the day to Latavius Murray's 22, where he was supposed to be on the snap count. He actually outsnapped Latavius Murray. Murray got the touchdown, I believe, again, but he snapped off a huge run where he ran for 22 plus miles an hour, the fastest that any player has hit the entire year in the NFL. Are we no longer concerned that he's suffering from a hamstring injury and he's good to go? I mean, it's got to be, right, Steve?
That's fast. And that also scared the shit out of me when I watched him do that, because that's the first thing I thought of is like, this is his first game back, coming back from a multi-week hamstring injury, and he's running like that. Awesome to see. Very impressive, very fast, like we said. And you just look to make sure he comes out of this bye week without any aggravations of that hamstring. I mean, if he comes back and he's not on the injury report, you have to assume it's all systems go for him. And obviously back in your lineup immediately, because we saw the types of things that he can do and what he brings to that offense. Just a different dynamic, a different type of runner from Latavius Murray completely. And so it reminded you of how awesome he was last year before he got injured. And so it's just exciting to see a player like him come back. And if that's what he's going to do, then giddy up.
When healthy, Steve, he has averaged 105.4 yards from scrimmage per game. That's the 6th most in the time he's been in the NFL. He's been RB10 in PPR points per game with 15.7. He has he's 9th best in yards gained per touch at 5.51 and 3rd best in missed tackles forced per touch, according to Pro Football focus. Kevin, let's jump over to a guy that is in your roster for the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb. Since the Carlos Hyde trade in Week 7, Nick Chubb's 84% market share of carries is the highest carry share among all running backs. He is ahead of James Conner at 83, Zeke at 80, Saquon Barkley at 79.5, and Joe Mixon at 75.5. He got 22 carries this week, 85 yards and a touchdown. You have to be happy taking him where you got him in Falafel and then pacing your team. I looked at your roster. You have a very solid roster now, especially with Sony Michel coming back.
Yeah, thank you. I obviously had a strategy drafting Michel, Chubb, and Ronald Jones, and back to back rounds. That was my goal, was to grab these rookies and hope that they panned out by midseason and I can hang on until then. Seems to have worked out so far. We'll see going forward. A little concerning to me that the yards per carry is just down for him. He's had a couple of really good games earlier in the season with yards per carry on limited touches. Obviously, we've seen some big runs from him, but as he gets more, it hasn't really gone. He's hovering below the 4.0 average. So I don't know, just a little concerning there. But overall, I think the market share is great. They have a pretty decent schedule coming up. In general, they're not playing any teams that I think you're absolutely terrified of. The Atlanta Falcons are on there. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Houston Texans, obviously a little bit better, but you can run on the Bengals and the Falcons for sure. So I think you can expect good things out of him the next couple of weeks too.
Yeah, you could pass to running backs on the Falcons too, and that brings us to Duke Johnson, who there was just a ton of stuff on Twitter in reference to Duke Johnson. So he finished as the number 7. By the way, Chubb was number 12 overall this week, and Duke Johnson was number 7 in 0.5 PPR. Duke Johnson's receptions by week: 1, 2, 2, 4, 1, 4, 4, 2. He had 6 in the first half this week with Hugh Jackson gone. 6. He finished the game pulling in all 9 of his targets for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. He got 2 red zone targets in his first game under offensive coordinator Freddie Kitchens. That tied the high mark he's gotten in 40 games under Hugh Jackson. This is, if anyone is going to benefit from him being gone, it's Duke Johnson. Baker Mayfield is 26 for 30 for 266 yards and 2 touchdowns when passing to Duke Johnson. The moral of the story here is, if Duke Johnson is for some reason on waivers, then you play with a bunch of fools. But if somebody's willing to trade him to you, now's the time to make the move for that. Johnson was on the field for 46% of Cleveland's pass plays last year when he finished 4th among running backs and receptions. He was on the field 57% this past week. So that's you see him go right back to last year's output.
He's the perfect type of guy to target too, because a lot of contenders at this time of year, particularly in dynasty formats, you'll see them going all in, so to speak, and they're trying to get the big studs and trying to get the big names to really solidify their starting roster. But Duke Johnson's a guy you can probably get for relatively cheap that will be a perfect flex option pretty much the rest of the way. So I agree with you, Sal. Great point there.
I don't know. Steve's complaining that one of us has background noise. It's probably him.
Nah, never. Couldn't be. I was going to say, the only thing, it looks like, the coaching changes that they made for this week did good things for the offense for the Cleveland Browns. The only thing I'm upset about is all the terrible, awful, stupid puns that have come out with this Kitchens guy taking over and all the stupid things that are being said about him. Not a fan. Not funny.
You don't like puns? Who doesn't like a good pun?
I appreciate funny puns. No, I appreciate funny puns. Yeah. I appreciate good humor. They're not funny.
Well, go back and see. There was a thing, I think Scott Fish either retweeted or posted it about that guy Kitchens when he was in Arizona when he almost died at the facility. And basically the trainer acting quickly, getting him to the hospital, saved his life. It's a very touching, very nice story about that guy.
Nice job, Steve. Way to be a jerk.
Just the puns, not the guy.
The puns.
Way to be a jerk. The guy almost died, and here you are making fun of his name.
It's not making fun of his name.
We talked about Marcus Mariota. Now let's talk about Dion Lewis. The only reason I'm going to say Derrick Henry here is because I want to compare that over the last 3 games, Deion Lewis has gotten 32, 45, and 59 snaps, and Derrick Henry has gotten 12, 24, and 14. In 10-team and possibly even 12-team leagues, I think Derrick Henry might be droppable at this point. I know he scored a touchdown, but I mean, we can't rely on a touchdown. He's getting little to no use in his offense. And over the last 2 weeks, Deion Lewis, well, he played in week 7, had the bye week in week 9. 13 carries, 91 yards, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 64 yards. Week 9, 19 carries, 62 yards, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. It's clear this is Deion Lewis's backfield. It's clear going forward. They're playing a little bit better with him there. Do you agree with me? We could Derrick Henry gone. Psh, get him out.
The only reason Derrick Henry's not droppable is because Deion Lewis is essentially fragile and
Diminutive?
could be.
That's true.
Could be, yeah, diminutive. He could be hurt at any time. In which time Derrick Henry will have some value, even though he is terrible. He'll at that point be getting 20 carries a game, and even at a 2 yards per carry, with the goal line looks 40 yards and a touchdown looks pretty good at the end of the season. So
40 yards on 27 carries.
Yeah,
2 touchdowns.
I said 20, but sure, yeah. But that's what you're going to see out of him, right?
Yeah. Ugly. So ugly. And he doesn't look good when he's running the ball. It's not like he's just being held back by Deion Lewis.
Terrible.
He looks awful.
He's a terrible football player. He has no agility. He's so rigid and stiff. He can't cut. He's just awful.
He looks like
gotta be one of the.
If you created a robot and tried to have him play football, and he would be so stiff and like move, but that's what he looks like out there. It's really, for a guy who's high on him, I'm embarrassed. You embarrassed me, Derek. Guys, over in Detroit, Theo Riddick was back and healthy, and he had the exact same amount of snaps as Kerryon Johnson, 39, and Blunt carried up the rear with 11. But the highest rated or ranked running back this week in Detroit was Theo Riddick because of the pass catches. He was at 30th, and Kerryon Johnson was down at 36th. It's not smart, and I'm a Theo Riddick guy. I have him a lot of places because they always come back to him, and he always gets plenty of play when he's healthy. But the offense looks so smooth and played so well with Kerryon Johnson getting the load. I don't understand it. I know Steve, Kevin, you have him as well in Falafel or no?
Not in Falafel, no. I have him in in a couple other places, but I will say this: I think for this year, it's probably not a bad idea for them to do this. I mean,
shut your mouth.
You got to look at the season and look at the long term. They're 3-5. They're 4th place in their division. They are definitely struggling. While they could make a run, they have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way, given what the division they play, and they still have to play the Rams. They have to play the Vikings, the Packers again, the Bears, the Panthers. So the Bears twice, actually. So that's some tough matches. Granted, they do get Arizona and Buffalo in there, which is nice. But tough matchups. And the kid's already gotten hurt a little bit throughout the season. Why give him 80% of the snaps at this point in the year? Why not just let Theo Riddick, an experienced veteran, take some of the load off of him and ease him in for the rest of the season? I know it sucks for us, but if I'm the team looking at the situation, that's what I'm doing.
What a bunch of selfish bastards.
Do you think that's actually what they're doing, though, Kevin? Do you think they're using Theo Riddick trying to save Kerryon Johnson a little bit, or do you think it's just they don't necessarily know how to run the offense properly with both of these guys healthy and on the field? Or what do you?
I don't think it's necessarily not knowing how to run it properly. I think it's partially saving guys, right? I think that they do, they are trying to limit not just Kerryon Johnson, but obviously they don't want to get, Theo Riddick hurt again. Like, they can use these guys to spell each other, but I also think they're coming from, look at the coach, right? Where does he come from? He comes from the Belichick tree of coaching, and Belichick screws over fantasy running backs, and that's so you have to expect that might continue in Detroit. But I do think eventually Kerryon will win out, and I just think that's going to be next year.
All right, we've been checking in on this pretty much all season, so we might as well do it now. The Ty Montgomery is gone. The snap breakdown went this way in Green Bay this week. Aaron Jones, 43 snaps, 22 routes run, 14 carries and 4 targets, 1 costly fumble. Jamal Williams, 31 snaps, 18 routes, 7 carries, and 2 targets. It's important to note that he did go back to Aaron Jones on the last drive of the game He did not go away from him. So it's important to know that. And here's a really good stat I saw on Twitter as well. Aaron Jones has not yet allowed a quarterback pressure, hurry, hit, or sack in his 11 pass block snaps. His blocking grade ranks 8th of 61 qualifying running backs. So he's getting better there as well. And it's starting to become something you can worry about less and less. Listen, 43 snaps and 31 snaps, both guys are going to get touches. I think Jamal Williams, because of the touchdown possibilities, is probably still someone you could consider as a flex player. But Aaron Jones, I think, is an RB2 going forward the rest of the way.
I'm just going to say it. Jamal Williams is the Derrick Henry of the Green Bay Packers. He will get phased out more and more as the season goes on.
A little less robotic.
He's I mean, yeah, he is. He's not as stiff. He's not as terrible at football, but he's just not Aaron Jones, and it's very apparent when you see the two of them that you can. It's very clear who the better running back is.
You don't have to see their numbers to know which one's running.
No.
Just something to note: the Jets halfback snaps this weekend. Elijah McGuire led the way with 36 to Isaiah Crowell's 23. So going down a stretch, young team. They're playing for nothing at this point with their quarterback out. McGuire should be added for sure. And
knowing that McCown's coming back, that's really going to open up the run game.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
Here's what makes me nervous about teams like that. Here's what makes me nervous about teams like that. They have nothing to play for, and a guy's already been injured throughout most of the season. If he gets a hangnail, he's probably going to sit down. Why risk it?
True, very true. Here's a guy I was going to bring up during the wide receivers portion because he's technically a wide receiver, but we'll do it with running backs. Cordarrelle Patterson.
You could use him as a segue.
My man.
One target, 1 reception, 7 yards, but 11 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. Now, after week 8, where he had 10 carries for only 38, you would have thought the experiment would go away. Listen, we've seen him run out of the backfield with the Raiders in the past and break off big touchdowns. The guy can carry the ball. He looks every bit the part. But, Kevin, Sony Michel's practicing, and Sony Michel's going to be back. So, like you said before about Belichick screwing guys over, does Patterson just become a gadgety player again and completely go away? Like this was the 1 week, which, by the way, I had to put him in just a massive bye-week murderous roster. I played him this week, and he was beautiful for me. But what say you, Kevin?
I think he goes back to what he was before. I think they're going to use him to spread open the field a little bit. They'll use him on some sweeps. They'll use him on some, maybe he'll catch a screen here and there. He'll be on special teams, but I don't think ultimately they're going to continue using him out of the backfield. It's certainly not to that extent. Maybe he gets 3, 4 carries, 5 at most, but I think Sony Michel will come back and be in his role as he was before. And you'll still see James White getting the majority of the touches in the passing game and even some runs out of the backfield. I don't think they're going to use him that way anymore. They're not going to sit Sony Michel, who's clearly a better running back between the tackles, and in general for Cordarrelle Patterson. They used him out of necessity.
But hold on to Cordarrelle Patterson because Sony Michel has missed time twice this year already. So it is not out of the question that he comes back in 2.5 games later. He is out for another couple games.
But Steve, do you want to, are you going to play, unless you're in a really deep league, are you going to play Cordarrelle Patterson ever? Like, yes, maybe Sony Michel goes down again and he gets another 10, 12 carries, but it's either going to be, maybe he gets 50 yards and a touchdown, but more than likely it's going to be like 30 yards like it was the week before, and you're not going to know which.
Sometimes you got to take chances. I'm just saying.
He's a terrible option even for a flex, in my opinion.
Cordarrelle Patterson or Derrick Henry?
Well, Derrick Henry's not a football player.
He's a robot.
He's a robot. Yeah,
he's a robot.
Guys,
if he was a robot, at least he could break tackles. He can't even break tackles.
I'm going to run you over and
get soft
into the end zone.
Actually, you know what? I think Derrick Henry might be giving robots a bad name. I've seen a lot of Twitter videos of robots running and jumping off of boxes and things that I don't think Derrick Henry can do. I don't think he can do that.
I don't think he can jump.
Yeah, that Boston Dynamics company.
They're going to take over the world. I'm scared to death.
It's true.
Johnny Five Alive, he could kick Derrick Henry's ass.
Johnny Five.
Johnny Five alive. Anyway, guys, at the very top of my wide receiver page, I have something written in capital letters with an exclamation point. Steve, tell me what you think it is. Come on,
Lock
Steve.
it up. Lock it up. Oh, no, it's not that.
Take your pills.
Oh, shit. What time is it? It's this Julio Jones scored a touchdown.
Oh, my God. It did happen.
The Julio back.
It was not a red target.
I was say he had a break of what, 35-yard screen, not of all things.
He gave Clinton Dix an unruly welcome to his new team, running him over and breaking a 90-catch touchdownless streak.
What were the air yards on that pass?
What? I don't know.
7.
1 yard. Yeah, no. Honestly, it wasn't even a bomb. Like that's the best part. Like you think, all right, it's not a red zone target. It must have been like a deep. No. It was like a 1 yard pass, and it
was a scam.
He's like, screw this, screw you, Matt Ryan. I'm getting in the end zone on my own.
Here's a great tweet from John Hermsmeyer. He said both Julio Jones and Antonio Brown have 160 fantasy points. Antonio Brown has 9 touchdowns and Julio Jones has 1. And he has the same amount of fantasy points.
That's crazy.
Is that nuts or what? Guys, do you know who was the number 2 overall wide receiver in 0.5 PPR this week? He plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he is not Godwin or Deshaun Jackson.
Adam Humphries.
That is right. Adam Humphries caught all 8 of his targets for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's been a little bit spotty there in recent weeks as to who you could trust in a wide receiving core. Do we think that Humphries is a thing going forward?
Can I just tell you how much I hate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year? Everything about them sucks, except for O.J. Howard. He's the only thing that doesn't suck about that team.
Mike Evans doesn't suck. He had a bad game.
He's a great football player. But you know what? There's just no consistency on the team. That offense has no idea what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. The only thing you can count on is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is somehow going to throw for 400 yards, and it's going to go to a receiver you never heard of, and O.J. Howard will get 1 long catch.
Yeah, guys, Fitzpatrick should be in the lineup every week right now, right? Regardless of who he's playing against. Correct? I mean, he's the number 3 quarterback average points in fantasy football this year.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Is he going to be on a quick hook like he was when Jameis had come back?
No, I don't think that they could do that. I think that Fitzpatrick is in there and he's in there. I don't think they're going to go back.
We're only halfway through the season.
I think the only way Winston gets back on the field is if they fire Cutter and he's no longer playing for his job. And then the injury concern is a thing, right? I mean, because that guarantees his contract.
They might put him out there in a wheelchair. The boy can throw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fitzpatrick dropped back 47 times on Sunday. Evans was on the field for all running routes on all 47. Humphries 44. Deshaun Jackson 26 and Godwin 25. Not the breakout year I think everyone was expecting for Chris Godwin so far. Again with the Patriots, Josh Gordon saw 10 targets, was only able to pull in 5 of them, but for 130 yards and a touchdown. And we saw all the comments again about how the Patriots got him for a 5th rounder. Mind you, got a 7th rounder back in that deal. So basically traded a 5th for a 7th and got Josh Gordon as well. And obviously with seeing Amari Cooper on Monday night, that's who they're all referring to, the Cowboys possibly overpaying with a 1st-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat the production. There's still a fine line with Josh Gordon. You have no idea when he will cross that line and be gone. So there's a lot of risk there, but he looks great. Brady's obviously not afraid to target him, and the guy can make ridiculous catches. I mean, he has such incredible body control. He can literally beat out just about any cornerback in the league to go get the ball. And then the play where he scored was phenomenal. It was mostly Brady and poor defense, to be honest with you, in that. But he made a good move when on the safety to get around him. But just the acrobatic catches that he can make are incredible.
Just of note, I brought up Amari Cooper. He played 50 snaps. He led all wide receivers in his first game, so they did not ease him in. He did have the full bye week off to work with the team. And
his touchdown was great. His touchdown was absolutely great. I mean, that route was run perfectly. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. It's amazing that the Raiders got nothing out of him this year.
That's not amazing. It's not amazing.
And it's not even just this year. This has been a multi-year problem.
Last year, I get. I'll give, and he had 2,000-yard seasons to start his career. So I mean, last year I get his quarterback was banged up. This year is just it's all Gruden all the time.
All Gruden all the time. Also of note, the Lions wide receiver usage with Golden Tate out for the first time with the Eagles. Kenny Golladay saw 68 snaps, 49 routes, 4 targets. Marvin Jones, 63 snaps, 47 routes, 8 targets. And TJ Jones, not Powell, led the way as the number 3. Steve and we talked about that last week. 36 snaps, 34 routes, 2 targets. I don't believe Powell received the target.
I believe you guys both said Powell, didn't you?
No, I absolutely said long term. I said to grab both of them in Dynasty, and I didn't think that either one of them would be a factor this year.
I said for sure TJ Jones was the guy of the 2. I know I said that. I think Steve.
I must be thinking you killed it. You really know.
I must be thinking of Steve that was incredibly wrong on that.
I wasn't even on the show. Assholes.
Well, but we did talk about it on the preview show. This is something that will make Kevin happy right here. Rookie slot wide receiver Anthony Miller leads the Bears in targets with 20 and air yards with 266 over the last 3 weeks. Possibly slow down with Allen Robinson coming back, but Robinson in his last 3 games was only saw 6, 4, and 5 targets. So Kevin, Anthony Miller could be a thing the rest of the year.
A big fan. I think it's going to be up and down because I think that offense is going to be a little bit up and down for the most part. And with Allen Robinson coming back, obviously you're looking at less targets. But I do like his talent. I think he's probably, up there as far as talent-wise for receivers on the team. I like Allen Robinson, but I haven't been impressed with his play so far this year. Plus, he's been injured. So I can see him being a thing in deeper leagues. I obviously have him in the Falafel League. I will play him from time to time, mostly matchup based. Probably once we get through bye weeks, he won't see my lineup as much, as long as my running backs stay healthy. But yeah, I think you can expect a decent amount of targets going his way. 7 to 8 targets a game, and what he does with them. Some weeks will be big, and some weeks will probably not.
Yeah. Speaking of a couple of guys in deeper leagues, I think everybody had DJ Moore earmarked for a big week this week, me included, and Curtis Samuel sniped him. Do we see it going forward with these 2 guys, Steve? Tough to decide which guy to play. DJ Moore only saw 2 targets, and he caught 1 for 16 yards. Curtis Samuel didn't see a lot. He saw 4 targets. He caught 2 of them for 25 yards and a touchdown. He had a very nice touchdown run for 33 yards as well. So the 2 touchdowns paced him to a number 7 overall finish this week in 0.5 PPR. But is it just going to be too hard to predict week to week which one of those guys, very similar style players, to use?
Yeah, absolutely. And if Carolina's plan was to use DJ Moore like this, it makes you kind of wonder why they spent the draft capital on him that they did to draft him, knowing that they had Curtis Samuel, who was coming back from an injury from last year, and he did miss a little bit of time at the beginning of this season. But like you said, they're using them very similarly, and they're using DJ Moore as more of he's getting most of his production as kind of a gadget player as opposed to a wide receiver, which we know he can do. We know that he's a good wide receiver. It just doesn't seem like they're using him like that. So I think this season, you're not going to be able to really rely on either one of those guys, Curtis Samuel included, and because you just don't know which guy is going to get that big play each and every week. I mean, Curtis Samuel, that play, he earned that one. He earned that play. That was a huge run around the entire field. I think they said that in that one run, he actually ended up running the entire length of the football field, and it was like a 30-yard touchdown. So he earned that touchdown, but those are the types of players that they are, and that's how they're being used by that Panthers offense. So I think that you start them at your own risk. You're not going to be able to know who's going to be the guy each and every week.
All right, last wide receiver, Steve. This was a name I threw out when we were talking about the Redskins on the last one. Maurice Harris was a guy I said to keep an eye on, because there were so many injuries in that offense, and I didn't expect 12 targets for 10 yards and 124 yards, for 10 receptions rather, and 124 yards. He was one of the guys highly sought after on waivers last night. Jamison Crowder might play this week. He's questionable. He's practicing limitedly. Again, I spoke earlier about Alex Smith. I don't think Alex Smith is somebody you could count on right now in fantasy, but can he make any one of these guys relevant, or are all the past targets, including the running backs at this point, with the injuries that have gone on with Chris Thompson, is everybody persona non grata in DC?
Yeah, I think when you mentioned how mediocre Alex Smith has been, I know it's kind of been his thing the last few years, but he just isn't. Doesn't have any guy that really hones in on. He's spreading the ball around, and like you said, you're not going to be able to really rely on either one of these guys because you don't know where the small amount of production is going to end up, and it doesn't seem to all be going to one person. So I don't think that you can really rely on any of these guys. Like you said, Paul Richardson going to be out for the rest of the year now. He was placed on IR. Jamison Crowder, I don't think is going to be end up playing this week, so that gives them to everyone playing a little bit of a boost more. Chris Thompson would be the only one that I would be putting in there each and every week when he's healthy. But even then, you're going to have to assume, or at least know that there's a real chance that he doesn't play the entire game. So I don't know. I'm staying away from this Redskins offense as much as possible.
Kevin, desperate times, and you need to pick up one of these two guys in a 16-team league: Maurice Harris or Curtis Samuel.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it matters. It's a toss-up. I probably take Samuel, just because I like the player a little bit more, and it seems to be they're getting him more involved in the offense. He has a bigger potential to break big plays in my mind, but I really don't know. I don't think it matters. I think you're gonna be shooting darts with either one of them the rest of the season, right?
I had my choice between those two and Falafel, and that's why I picked up Samuel. And I liked Harris, but I thought the same thing. If I'm forced to use him in a flex, I'll go for the big playability and the possibility of those long touchdowns.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be very wrong on this too, but in leagues where you get special teams points, I do believe doesn't Samuel return punts?
Doesn't Christian McCaffrey return punts?
If he does, he shouldn't. That's stupid.
I don't know positively if he's returning punts right now. I haven't paid enough attention to the special teams over there in Carolina. Guys, I talked about Chris Herndon earlier, so the only other tight end I'll bring up is a guy who I had on my bench this week. So I was really desperate for a tight end this week, and I started what's the guy in Baltimore, the rookie?
Mark Andrews.
Yeah, the other
Hayden
one.
Hurst.
Hayden Hurst. You know why I couldn't think of his name? Hunter Hurst Helmsley, which is Triple H from WWE. That name kept popping into my head. I couldn't think of Hayden Hurst because that name kept popping into my head. He did nothing. And on my bench, Jeff Herman from the Denver Broncos caught 10 of his 11 targets for 83 yards and a touchdown. I had him on my bench. You know who else I had on my bench? Nick Fournette, who also had a nice little game. Guys, give me those three guys right there.
Moral of the story, tight end sucks.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll get to the point. The number 13 tight end right behind Herndon this week, and Herndon was 4 for 62, was 7 for 40. Like, you guys just get over 40 yards and you'll be a viable tight end in the NFL these days. Which one of those three guys the rest of the way? Fournette, Hierman, and Hunter Hurst Helmsley.
Double H.
Triple H.
Hierman.
That's who you want, Steve? Kevin,
no,
rather?
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Honestly, because I think I like Hayden Hurst as a player better at long term, but that he's a little capped in Baltimore because, for one, the offense is struggling. For another, they have the other one, Mark Andrews, like Steve said, and not to mention all the other tight ends in Baltimore that Steve has liked over the last 3 years. They're all still there. So I just, there's too many options there. And then when you talk about the other guy that you mentioned, I just don't, Fournette. Yeah, I don't see any, I don't see any sustained production there. I don't think he's going to be the guy week in and week out because they have other options as well. And that offense doesn't necessarily utilize the tight end very, very much. So
I'll go with Heuerman as well.
Are we all in agreement that the rest of the way Hayden Hurst's name is Double H on this show?
Yes, Double H.
Steve, wrap the show up, will you please?
Double H. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, fantasyfootballfunhouse.com, where you can catch up on all the podcasts that you might have missed over the last few weeks as we've ventured out onto our new podcast feed. So go check it out. Download all the episodes. Even if you're not going to listen to them again, just go ahead and download them again. That would be awesome. And
Steve, can you make sure that you add to that little repertoire next time that Sal is a featured writer for fanball.com?
Oh yeah, I will.
It needs to be in there.
When he's here, I'd like to give him the opportunity to say that for himself.
I'm not really sure that I'm featured, but I am there. And I'd like to say it is safe to go back and follow Steve on Twitter. I believe all the political talk is gone.
That's correct.
And I want to say it's a day late, but I hope everybody got out there and executed their right to vote in this country. My daughter, who is 18, it's the first time she was eligible to vote, and this was a very big deal to her. So I'm proud of her for that. And she got me actually excited to go and vote, and then she tried to convince me to vote for everybody that she voted for. So a lot of fun. I hope that Americans did what they needed to do and also can shut up for a little while, because the poll results are in, and this is who we have, and just accept it for a little while. Just be quiet and talk about football, for God's sakes.
Yeah, you know, I like that everyone was encouraging people to vote, but I also wouldn't like it if people didn't tell me how I'm supposed to vote. Like just tell people to vote, and that they should do their duty and do their research and go out and pick the candidates that they like. Don't tell me who I have to vote for, and don't tell me that I have to vote and whatever. Anyway, add some charity. Add some charity to your fantasy playing experience. It'll make it a lot better. I'm not going to take up too much time here. Do that. Go to fantasycares.net next year when the things get open again, and enjoy it. We'll be back later in the week. I think Steve and Sal are probably going to try and bump me out of the, schedule a time slot that I can't make just to get me out of the show. But I'm
available all day and night.
Maybe I'll be there. You hear that, ladies? Sal is available all day and all night. So on that note, have a great night.